Hello, lovely people. I'm Sinéad, and welcome back. It's been a bit of a wild week, I guess, and for a multitude of reasons. You may have seen my post where I finished up all 50 of these little books. I did make one mistake, and we're going to have fun with that. Amongst the bags, as you can see here, I accidentally stamped that upside down. So if you are going to be at the Pacific Northwest BJD Expo, I believe it's in May, but I'll have to check the dates on that. And you get this bag. It'll have a book in it, and the book has a major mistake. If you contact me with proof of what that mistake is, I will give you an additional free book. The book will come with, inside the front cover, a note for how to get a download of this book so that you can make other, there'll be a little piece of paper folded up in the front of the book for everyone that will let you download the PDF so that you can make more copies of this particular book. Now, if you don't want another book and you get this bag, you can also exchange it for a free pattern. Be happy to do that instead of a book. Now I want to demo how one of my patterns is sewn up. I'm going to turn the camera around and you can watch me sew up one of the patterns for RealPuki. So here's the RealPuki that I will be sewing for, but before we get started on that, he has the cutest little face up that was done by Tannabeth, and I will put her contact information in the description box. I came around to the other side of my desk and discovered things I'd left here to talk to you about. This skirt, which I tie up with so that it'll tie it up with a ribbon so that it will hang when I put it on the doll. But I did this poodle skirt with a silk ribbon leash that is couched. And I don't know if you're familiar with couching, but it's a really simple process of just taking a stitch over the top. And I made sure that I did the stitches really tiny so that it would gather the ribbon. And that makes the ribbon easier to curve around in coils to get some shape going in the leash. And as you can see on the bottom, it's just a straight stitch between. You're just doing teeny tiny stitches over the top of whatever it is you're sewing on. And we have dog hair everywhere. Well, I guess that's appropriate on a poodle skirt. And the other thing that is sitting over here is that I just received a tinier rubber stamp of the Mudwood Cottage. And you can probably see the print, the stamp actually easier than you can see the other image. Anyway, we're going to try and use this on clay to make keychain fobs. And it was one of the things that we had planned to do in this donation so that we would have something that represented Mudwood Cottage and something that represented Fairy Rags. And the stamp only just got here yesterday. We had another stamp that you may have seen on Instagram that didn't work out the way we wanted it to. So we decided we'd try the rubber stamps instead. And we just got that and haven't had a chance to try it on the clay itself. But it hopefully will work out. If it doesn't, I've got a backup plan. And hopefully we'll get it into the bags and finished and all that for the expo. So, on the patterns, when you purchase one of my digital patterns, I think without a exception, they all have many pages of instructions from how I cut them out. And the reason I include those instructions is because with miniature clothing, you don't construct it the same way that you construct regular full-size clothing or even Barbie clothing. I use a smaller seam allowance because I don't like trimming the seams afterwards. I have been known to nick the clothing doing that, and so I'm not a fan. And I explain how you go about cutting it out to stay true to size, because on the tinier the garment, the more important it is to get the fit just so. And part of getting the fit correct is cutting it out the same way I cut it out, or should I say, to the same parameters. If you cut out your pattern outside the edge of the pattern piece, your piece of fabric is going to be bigger than what I started with. And as a result, your garment will be bigger, and it may not fit the doll you intended it to fit. It may fit a bigger doll. Like if you do this with a RealPuki pattern, it may fit a Puki who it's from 9 to 11 centimeters is their size, but their body, the Puki's body, is a lot thicker. Anyway, on the last pages, I include basic instructions on the stitches used in the pattern, and then all of the pattern pieces are on either the last page. Sometimes I haven't been consistent. This will be last, and the pattern pieces will be next to last. But it's still going to be these black and white printable pages, less ink, so that you don't have to print out 12 pages of photograph color instructions. This was printed out normal on paper, printer paper, and the photos are pretty clear. So if you do print it out, you should still be able to tell what it is you're supposed to be doing. But you don't have to. You can look at your PDF on your iPad or your phone for the instructions and only print out the pattern pages. But do be sure to check and make sure it's which page it is, whether it's the last page or the next to the last page. Anyway, we are not going to be making this whole pattern. We're going to make the capris, and I am going to use my scallop scissors on the bottom of the pant leg here. Let's see if this is... I haven't done it yet, but I was going to take a scallop scissor and where you would normally hem it, and I was going to cut off the hem seam allowance and give it a scalloped edge unfinished and leave it that way, because jersey's great. It doesn't fray. I also wanted to do this simple t-shirt, but we may not get to that today. I have a feeling that we're going to take longer than what I allotted. This t-shirt is available free on my website. It's set up same as the other patterns. The last page, as you can see, is a very, very simple pattern. Very good starting place for sewing miniatures to get your feet wet. Give it a try. And this one being free, there's no investment other than downloading and printing. Anyway, let's get started sewing. First, I'm going to use I'm having a hard time seeing which side's the right side. So that's the hem cut off. Okay, we're not wanting to cut through, but guess it was cut and clinging. Now, this jersey has a right side and a wrong side, and I don't know if that's going to show up on there, where it looks like rows of miniature knitting is the right side, and the back side has a rougher texture. So we're going to put it right sides together. And later I'll discover I couldn't see this correctly and I did it backwards. But it still works. Because the fabric, okay, this is a rayon jersey, and if you knot the end of your thread, it will most likely pull through. So I am going to knot in the fabric. And I don't know if this is still a sewing practice, knotting that way, but if I can find, you know, that's one of the things I don't put in the instructions is how to knot your thread. Let me know if that's something you need demonstrated. I've changed how I knot the ends of my thread because I grew up basically spitting on my finger and then rolling, and it's kind of gross. I'm also using a back stitch so that it will stretch when I'm finished. You need the jersey to be able to stretch. So the crazy thing that was made this week wild is my youngest two offspring had their birthdays. They are 5 days apart. And so one weekend was Arthur's birthday, and he made chocolate cake. Now, I haven't had sugar in 3 years, and that includes fruit, because of the mold poisoning. I just couldn't process sugar. It'd wipe me out, and I couldn't function. And I'd get headaches, and it was just, sugar had to go. So I've been off sugar for all this time, and I've been craving chocolate cake, and he made chocolate cake. So I had a little nibble, and nothing happened. And I had another little nibble, and nothing happened. And I was very excited, and so I ate more. And, well, we were okay, you know, just a little, I don't think actually the chocolate cake, I think I was fine after the chocolate cake. I should have stopped there, though. The next weekend, the youngest decides that they need chocolate mousse. And that was quite the buzz. Because, yeah, I had some, and I shouldn't have, because, you know, it has been a long time, and you don't need to inundate yourself with that much sugar when you haven't had any. So maybe that's why my stamps were upside down and my book got assembled incorrectly. It's a possibility. Definitely was buzzing. So pressing right here at this point is a good thing to do. I am notoriously I don't do it. I will finger press it open, grab a pin to make sure it stays open until I get there. I fold down the seam allowance for the waistband and just continue on. I knot the thread in there at the end, and I don't worry about it too much. Now, your waistband does not necessarily make it all the way to the edge here. It's It's not necessary because that is going to be in the seam allowance on, you know, on the back. And I also did this backwards. So it's one of the things that I prefer to do is to stitch this from the outside so I can keep it neat. I do the back stitch, and you just make sure that you're catching the fabric on the other side. And the other way that I'll do it is with a hem stitch, which probably would have been a better choice for speed because I don't have to see as well. And you're looking at the side that you're trying to catch instead of guessing here. So periodically I will look and make sure that I'm actually catching the part, the hem that I want to catch. Doing the back stitch from the outside of the garment makes what looks like a machine stitch. And I kind of like the way it looks. And then I'll settle into this quiet mode of just stitching. I was filming yesterday sanding of the sheep's feet, and again, I don't know if that's anything of interest, but to watch, but I was filming it anyway because it's something that I spend a lot of time doing. And I was being all quiet and just assuming that I'd put music or something in the background. And Joey walked in and started talking. Which happens a lot, where someone will come in and start talking to me while I'm working. And if I'm filming, they'll kind of go, "Oh, are you filming?" Because I'm not talking to you guys. They don't know until, you know, words have been exchanged. Nice words, usually. Okay, I just got tangled. So what did you do this week? That is feeling like I'm not catching. Also, is there a pattern you'd like demoed? I'd love suggestions because I never know what it is that you want to see. If, you know, a demo on the patterns, would it help? Is also, I have stopped making patterns because I've run into an interesting creative block on it. I've done, I think, basics for all the little dolls that I had intended to make clothes for, and then I did some stuff that was a little more complicated. I didn't think it was that complicated, but it's not basic, and they don't sell. So and they take longer, of course, to make and to create the pattern itself. And so I want direction, I guess, if you even want to see more patterns. And it's okay if you don't. I'm totally fine sitting over here doing other things. But would love to share information. And it's okay. I finished this up off screen, and excuse me there. The next step would normally be to hem the bottoms, but we've cut it off, so we don't need to hem it. And so you fold on the front seam and match up the back seam, or the the back of the pants, and you can pin it or not. And then we're going to stitch along there. And I think I'm going to do that and then come back. Okay, as you can see, I have slid it onto my RealPuki to make sure that it fits and that it slid right on and slides right back off. And yes, I took his feet off. Poor little guy, no feet. All right, so the next thing you want to do is to open out that seam on both the front and the back and match them up. Now that is something that I usually do pin. So I don't know about you, but when I was a kid and I was into miniatures, I loved miniature dolls. Dollhouse size, 12th scale. I think that's what they usually were. They may have been, I may have had a few that were actually in a different scale, but that's not important. What frustrated me about these dolls is that they were always dressed in whatever they came in, and you couldn't change it. They had their clothes glued on, and I was one for pulling those clothes off. And then they had usually a foam wrapped wire body with, you know, little plastic hands and heads. And it was a frustrating, you know, thing for my imagination as a child. I was just, you know, why don't they have bodies, and why why is it fake? Which is silly. The whole thing's fake. But anyway, so that's kind of what drove me to learn how to sew up little tiny clothes. And I would then make little tiny dolls, usually using those Chanel stems, or I guess you call them pipe cleaners. I would make a doll, wrap it in, or sew up a felt body around it, and then I could dress it. And I loved the jersey. My mother didn't sew with jersey, but she would take the old t-shirts when they wore out and put them in the rag bag, and I would raid the rag bag for the old t-shirts, and then I would make clothes. Now, back then, I was not doing a back stitch. I was doing a running stitch, and so, of course, whenever I pulled like that, all the stitches would pop. But I could take my clothes on and off, my dolls, and that was what was important, was being able to take the clothes on and off the dolls. I wanted the details. You ever experience that kind of need to alter what was available, or what you were playing with? I'm not sure I've got enough thread to make it all the way. Anyway, so you're gonna sew all the way to the crotch here, and if you're running out of thread, you're gonna knot it off. Yeah, I'm gonna knot it off. And then go down the other leg after I get another piece of thread. Well, maybe I'm going to knot it off. Apparently I'm having trouble seeing. It's really raining, and the sky has gotten quite dark outside, and all our light is just disappeared. So I'm in here going, where did everything go? Okay, so I will sew down the other side here, go down the other leg off camera. Okay, now they're finished, and we'll turn them right side out. And I'm going to admit that usually I grab a crochet hook for this. I'm going to see if I can do it without it. Well, it's challenging, but we're turning. Okay, excellent. Then we will slide it on the RealPuki. So I'm actually having trouble standing here because I am having to stand to be in, I guess, in range. Okay, we have cute little scalloped edged pants, and we are going to put his feet back on. He says a nice green shirt would be perfect for heading out into the woods and not being seen, so that he can sneak up on the squirrel and tame it. Or maybe he just wants to feed it. We have lots of tiny little brown squirrels out here and chipmunks. And the squirrels are the same size as the chipmunks, which is not what you get when you live in town. The squirrels in town are completely different. I find that fascinating. Anyway, there's this pair of pants. Okay, on the shirt, we're going to use the straight pins here. We're going to just go ahead and put the back on the front so we can attach the shoulder seams. And I'm just going to line it up with the pattern piece here. Come on, scoot over. Well, I'm going to attempt to. And then I'm going to pin it where the red dot is so that I know where I'm stitching to. And, you know, on this side, I'm just going to start there. Well, I'm going to attempt to start there. Of course, I just went and was looking over what I'd filmed so that to make sure that this darkness that I am dwelling in isn't affecting what you're seeing so much. And I discovered that the first part, I'm not nearly as in frame as I should be. So I apologize for that. I'll try to get better at that. And the other thing, I spilled coffee down the front of me. So, splatters or whatever, if you see that on the paper, yeah, that's what happened. How's your day going? Hopefully better than coffee down the front of you. I don't wish that on anybody. It's not that bad, but, you know, you kind of feel like, oops. Which is a silly way to put that, but it takes me longer to do than to probably than it does if I was sitting down and focusing on this completely, rather than, obviously I'm struggling with the whole staying in frame and sewing. Okay, we've got the first shoulder seam done. I'm gonna do the other one off camera because that's awkward. Okay, I did go ahead and press this time because normally I would be holding it with my thumbs to keep it in place, and you can't see through my thumbs. So the shoulder seams are pressed open and the collar is pulled down further than the seam allowance so that you get a little bit of a curve. I call it a smiley face curve in the pattern. And you do the same thing with the back. You make pull this down just a little bit more than it is right here at the side seam. It's approximately 3. That actually looks more like 4 millimeters, but you get the idea that it's further than the 2mm seam allowance. And then you're going to stitch around the neck opening to, well, create the collar. And again, I would do this from the outside, so I would flip it over and start comfortably here and knot it and go around, which I will do off screen again. Okay, there, that is finished, the edge around the collar. And yeah, I did press it again. It does make it look a lot neater to go ahead and press it. And rayon doesn't crease without pressing. You can sometimes finger crease cotton and it will stay, but rayon doesn't. So anyway, there's what the inside looks like, and the outside. Okay, so the next step is to fold at the shoulder seams and line up the side. And we're gonna, sorry about that, line up the side there. And we're gonna stitch from the bottom to the dot that represents the armhole here. And I'm gonna put it back down here and stick a pin in. Oh, look, thread. So just give yourself a marker of some kind to stitch to. Okay. Thinking. Or is it focus? Now, if you can leave that tail until you're done, but sometimes it interferes and wants to get involved. I'll go ahead and remove it. It's kind of amazing to me because when I look at the screen, I can't, it's dark. And I stopped and looked, you know, at the footage to see what was going on, to see if I had totally wasted a bunch of time filming something you couldn't see. And I was like, no, you can see it. That's so weird that I can't see it until while I'm doing it. But I guess maybe the camera compensates for the lighting. It's one of those things that's going on behind the scenes that seems to be doing a lot, because if I try and compensate for the lack of lighting, like if I get more lights set up in here so that it looks right on the screen to me, and I go back and I look at that footage and it's all washed out. It's funny to be calling it footage. Okay, we are there. It's time to knot. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. My oldest says that this is this type of knot tying is really difficult and they don't even try. Having learned a different way to knot it in sail making, that's what they use. I can't follow what they're doing, so I haven't learned the way they do it. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and stitch the other side, and then we'll come back and show how the hem on the sleeve here is. Let me get back on screen. We're going to show how the hem on the sleeve is done. Boy, I hope I can do this. So you're pulling back the edge further than at the shoulder than what happens at the bottom, so that it is narrower at the shoulders than it is at the body. So this should taper into the seam allowance, and this should be almost to the neck opening, but not quite. And one of the things that I'll do is I'll go ahead and pin this and then flip it right side out. And then something that can be helpful, I don't know if I have to have it here, is to get a dowel that fits in there. And unfortunately, because it's a stretchy material, I can go ahead and get my finger in there, but a dowel would keep you from stretching it, because this might end up out of shape. So I'm going to try not to pull it quite so far onto my finger. And I probably forgot to say it, but the collar was done with backstitch, and we're going to do around the armhole here with backstitch again. Hopefully I'm catching that. Well, I just came undone. I need to check the inside anyway. My thread escaped again, but used that opportunity to add some straight pins, because I was actually missing the I wasn't catching the hem. And, you know, kind of fruitless if you're not catching the hem. So, continue around with the back stitch. Don't remove the pin until you've got that area anchored. Man, I want that pin out. I also had to bring out the wax to wax my thread. Now, you have the option, kind of knew the dog was going to start barking. Somebody's moving around outside with the car. You have the option when you're stitching around here of keeping your stitches exactly the same distance from the edge, but it might actually help hold the sleeve opening, or the shirt opening, arm opening, better if you do a gradual away from further in at the shoulder. He's telling me that there is somebody outside, and how dare I not come and help him see. It's probably just my son bringing back some firewood. Oh, nope, he went and brought back a sibling. Hopefully I haven't wandered off the screen there too much. Well, we just picked up the back side. There, let go. Like I said, this is a lot more difficult to hang on to. Keep it where you can see it. But we're there. We have made it around. Gonna pull it to the inside. Ow. Knot it again. And then I will stop and again do the other side off screen. Thought I'd share this option. When I'm holding the shirt back in my hands, and I prefer to have the side seam done, and then that kind of determines the armhole, but I've marked here where the dots are. You do have the option of finishing this before you do the side seam. And you can just pull it back, pin it in place. Just be sure that you taper from this wider hem space to the narrower hem space, which again, this is not with the pin there. This is a little harder to show. Okay, hopefully I'm getting this back in the right place. And then stitch that first, then do the side seam. Totally optional. It's not what I put in the instructions, so you know you'll have to make the decision for yourself. But I wanted to be sure I shared that you don't have to do it the way I'm demoing it or the way that is in the pattern. Do what's easiest for you. Okay, so I pulled out a tapered dowel here that is one of my sewing tools, and it is making a world of difference. This does explain why on this t-shirt I decided that it was easier to do it afterwards, to do the side seam and then hem the edge of the armhole as I squirrel away off the screen. My tool here is getting in the way. All my other patterns, I finish the armhole, I insert sleeves, all of that happens before you do the side seam. This t-shirt is the only one that I instruct you to finish the arm's eye after you've done the side seam. And now I understand why. So I made it a lot easier by using a dowel in the arm's eye while stitching. It gives you something to run the needle across and know that you're not picking up the other side of the arm's eye, and it gives you another handhold spot so it's not trying to slip away from you, which is what it was doing as I struggled to stitch the other one. Asking about my poor life choices while I did it. Okay, and here we are, finished with another arm's eye. No, don't knot on the outside. Knot on the inside. Like I said, it gives me someplace else to hang on to. Of course, this is such a long tool, I am running into my tripod with it. Which means I keep moving away from the tripod and then you can't see. The next step will be to fold back the edges here. I think I gave you a full 5. Let's see. Well, there's no millimeter measuring device out. Inches won't help here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and use a back stitch here. This fabric has a lot of stretch both directions. If your fabric doesn't have a lot of stretch in with the grain, you can just do a running stitch for this part. So when I was spilling coffee down the front of me, the first thing I thought was less sugar. And the whole reason why I was even able to try eating sugar was that I have been drinking one of the coffee substitutes. Rise, I think, is the brand. It's the only organic mushroom coffee substitute out there that I'm aware of. It's the only one I was able to find. And I've been drinking it for about a month, just once a day. And it's been incredible improvement. I'm drinking less than half as much coffee as I used to drink. I could stop drinking coffee entirely, but I like coffee, so I'm still drinking some, but not nearly as much, which I used to measure how much coffee I drank, not by the cup, but by pots. How many pots of coffee have I drank today? By myself, without help. And it helps with focus, you know, it's great, but it also causes, you know, heart issues. You don't need that much coffee. So really happy with the improvement in digestion, as well as not needing or feeling like I need the coffee as much. And obviously I need less sugar. Looks like I've kind of gone crooked here. My thread is doing a tangle up on itself. Probably because I'm trying to keep in screen. Yeah, we kind of went on wandering there. I didn't keep that straight. So that's my coffee story that I, you know, reminded of because I'm klutzy and spilled it. I was just having a thought there of well, it's gone now. It was a shy thought. So I'm not going to sew all the way down to the bottom edge because we're going to flip that up and it'll get stitch going the other direction. And I think I am tangled. Did I just totally... I did. Just keep doing that where I pull it closer to me so I can see it. And anyway, my thread got tangled and I managed to untangle it. Okay, so I will off camera again finish the other side, and then I think I'm gonna go ahead and so you'll do this exactly the same on the other side. Then you'll fold up the bottom hem and stitch it exactly the same as you did the back two edges. And once I've got that done, we'll come back and talk closures. Okay, here's the hem. I finished that off, and I also attached snaps. The pattern shows, let's see, the back has buttons with button loops, right here. And that, I like the aesthetic of that, but it's not the easiest thing to do. If you would like a demo of how to do the button loops, there is instructions in here on how to sew it, but if you'd like it demoed, let me know. And we'll put it on. Let's see what we got here. Also, just let me know if there's any other explanations you want from any of the patterns. Don't be shy. Feel free to ask questions and comment, and I'll be happy to accommodate. There he is, all dressed and ready to go play out in the woods. Well, I hope you enjoyed the instructional time and the chatting. And remember that if you are going to the Pacific Northwest BJD Expo on May 31st, June 1st, and possibly the 2nd, but be sure you check their website because I am not a good person to ask about dates. And you receive the upside down Mudwood Cottage bag, be sure you contact me for something free, either a pattern or another PDF for a book. And I'll see you next time, and have a lovely week. Bye.